time-honored travesty that they brought from England. They used to do this thing in England. They used to do it in Spain. They did it in France. They did it in Germany. They've been cross-dressing for centuries. And so when a piece of them broke off and came over here, they brought it with them. God says they do it to dishonor the male head. A man is dishonored when his partner in bed is a man. When you commit homosexuality, you are bringing a gross shame against yourself. You are doing what God says will eventually win you the penalty of error in the body. Look at Farrah Fawcett. To die of anal cancer is not a mistake. And God has been warning all the women who continue to do that form of sexual activity that horrible things will happen to you if you continue sinning in that way and you don't repent and pray that God will break the soul ties of the people that you have committed that act with. So it dishonors the male head because a man ought not to lie with another man as he does with a woman. He says it dishonors him as the leader of the home and the husband because two men in the house are both the husband, even if one is dressed in pearls like Mr. Barbara Bush. He says it defiles the marriage bed. Why? Because marriage is between a man and a woman in covenant with God. Do you know that these people stood in churches? Do you know that these people stood in churches, and especially in the old days, the veil used to be as thick as 4 quilts? These two men stood in churches and married, and the priest married them, probably knowing, because these priests are into all gay things. Do you know the mockery it makes of the altar? Do you know the mockery it makes of the people who say we came to witness? We are the witnesses to this union before God. And then God is there. Are you though? Are you? It defiles the marriage bed and it brings down iniquity upon a country from its foundation. So America has been carrying this sin of homosexuality long before people started fighting about gender bathrooms and who should be able to swim in the pool with the girls. This is a long-lasting thing. And so Martha Washington, George Washington's wife, the first president of the United States, was a man. Abigail Adams, the wife of the second president, John Adams, was a man. You can go and look at Wikipedia. I got all their names. You just need one look. All the people who are claiming that they can't see so-and-so is a man, you are not looking. You are arguing. You come to the internet and you want to be right. You are not listening. Your ears are not listening and your eyes are not looking. Only your mouth is moving. And therefore, every deception that still remains in you, you fully deserve it. May it prosper because that is your wish. Abigail Adams was a man. Martha Jefferson Randolph, the daughter of Thomas Jefferson, was a clear man. You can see the men in their bonnets. Why? Because the painters were painting and the painters literally painted what they saw. Just the way they say the camera doesn't lie, I guess we can say the painter doesn't lie. Elizabeth Monroe, the wife of James Monroe, President James Monroe, was a man. Louisa Adams, John Quincy Adams' wife, a man. Rachel Jackson, who was alive only 1 year with her husband Andrew Jackson in the White House in 1928, was a man. After she died, 2 men helped President Andrew serve out the remainder of his terms. I think the terms were a little bit longer then, because when I was counting the years, it was definitely more than 8 years that man was in office. One of them was his niece, Emily Donaldson, and the other was his daughter, Sarah Jackson, that helped President Andrew Jackson finish out his term as consorts. Both of them, in their bonnets, were men. You can clearly see it. Anna Harrison was one of the harder-faced men. Very male. When you look on Wikipedia, you can see the picture. His husband was William Henry Harrison. Margaret Taylor was the husband of Zachary Taylor. With the exception of Nancy Reagan and Barbara Bush, who still looked very male. When we start to come into the modern era, when we start to look at, I don't know why people claim that Jackie Onassis did not look male. Clearly, you're looking with eyes of nostalgia because you're not looking with the 2 orbital orbs that are in your head at that woman's pictures. You're not looking with just normal eyes. You're looking through the eyes of your heart. And we all know that when we remember people through the eyes of our heart, we can remember anything because you can see the male sitting there. So what I noticed is that in the days of the painting, way back then, those men could not hide. One of the titles of The Beautiful Men is The Beautiful Men Cannot Hide. But as we start to come into the modern age and the makeup gets better, the hair gets better, the accessories, definitely. Those other women, they were hiding behind high neck collars for their Adam apple and bonnet strings and stuff like that. But as we're coming into the modern era, I found that only two really still had the man look and couldn't get away from it. And that was Nancy Reagan and Barbara Bush. And both of those, their maleness, Barbara Bush couldn't hide even when she was younger. But the maleness only started being a bit more pronounced as they entered into their later years. And that's when the man in these transsexuals cannot hide. But the rest of them in the modern era, where we now see color photos, they are not looking very male. And yet, Melania Trump, Michelle Obama, and Jill Biden have been in the public's face for a very long time, living their best lives, attending all the First Wives functions, unhindered and unmoved by whatever gossip has been swirling around them. And so that is the part that is related to the Beautiful Man series in this prophecy that is called The Fall of a Nation, the sins of a nation. And so God said that when you found a country, basically when you establish a country, when a nation is founded, he says, on blood, sex, sin, and perversion, and on the murder and rape and the pillage of indigenous peoples, there is only one way for that nation to go, which is downward, to the fire, to the pit. I will put America in the pit of my judgment, in the crucible fires of hell, and there she will burn for the iniquity she brought upon my people and upon the heads of the people she reared in the pen, meaning the pig pen. Pigs are an unclean animal in my lineage. Pigs are forbidden. Pigs are unclean to this day. Therefore, whoever participates in the harlot's pastimes, this means her activities, her hobbies, whoever drinks from the whore's cup, Mystery Babylon, you will be cut off from your people and cast into the pit with your mother. Mystery Babylon, mother of harlots, the Lord accuses you this day of sleeping man to man in the White House and in the halls of power, male to male on all your iniquitous beds. God says, how can you challenge him like this in your blatant disregard for his natural order and think that he would let it slide? So here we are, and the Lord is basically saying to this nation, whoever will find this video, the Lord is saying that America is a place in which homosexuality is the predominant form of sexuality. Now, this is a nation of 340 million people, and so 340 million people are definitely not listening here. But to those listening here, especially those who might be sitting at home with a baby or two tucked away, with a teenager or two sitting on the couch right next to them right now, staring at my face and thinking, what has this woman gotten us into? What have we gotten into, Mom? What have we gotten into, Dad? Such people who are